David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. One of the trends that have become prevalent over the last couple of years in regard to fountain pens is rainbow treatment. What I have for you today is a pen which the Taiwanese brand Laban released a little bit over a year ago, which is their entry into that subgenre of rainbow pens. And that would be the Laban Skeleton Rainbow. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the pen. I'm going to talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample where I'm going to show off a few brand new inks Laban is offering. Thanks go out to the good folks at Laban for providing this pen for review. The pen arrives in this box. This is a relatively new design for Laban. The drawer slides out, and then inside we have a pen. This is the Laban Skeleton Rainbow. Now, technically, I believe this model is called the 300 Skeleton Rainbow. I've seen some sites include the 300 and others not, so keep that in mind when trying to look for this pen online. I had previously reviewed this pen with the gunmetal finish. There are a fair number of similarities between the models, but there's some subtle differences as well that I'll show you. The pen is torpedo-shaped, and as the name would imply, the key feature of this pen is the skeleton design, as well as the rainbow colors. Now, there are a lot of very cool pens out there on the market right now with a skeleton design. There are several high-end models from brands such as like Mont Blanc and Visconti, which look fantastic. And I would consider this to be more of a budget-conscious alternative to those wallet-busting models. The cap and barrel of the pen are made from a high-quality Italian resin, and the metal overlay is brass. It's interesting sometimes how different retailers will have varying information about pens. I found two retailers who said the overlay is copper, but the company says that it's brass, and the majority of retailers say brass as well. The overlay is what the company describes as a filigree pattern with a rainbow coating. In comparison to the skeleton model I have in gunmetal, you can see here the acrylic on the gunmetal version is translucent rather than transparent like on the rainbow. While the overlay pattern is the same on both pens, I find the metal on the rainbow to be slightly thinner, not in thickness, but in width. And another thing, on the gunmetal, if you rub your hand on the overlay, while I would not describe it as smooth, it's not sharp. And on the rainbow, I describe the edge of the material to have a bit more bite to it, and it is slightly sharp. I do like that the overlay pattern appears to be a bit random with the outlined shapes. I will say, however, with closer examination, the cap and the barrel have the exact same pattern, with the pattern on the barrel just extending down a bit farther. It took me a while to notice that, and I like that even though the designs match, that the cap and barrel don't look too matchy-matchy. Let's take a look at the cap. The top of the cap is rounded and comprised of two separate pieces. This transitions into the clip. I like the clip of this pen. I feel it looks really sharp. It functions well and it looks nice in regard to the overall visual aesthetics of the pen. The cap angles up, and then at the end there is a band which is stamped with the Laban name. Then there's a medium-sized step down to the barrel. The barrel then tapers down, and on the end there is a metal cone which tapers down even more to a rounded end. The cap twists off with 1 3/4 rotations. It's interesting, the cap on the gunmetal version I have takes 2.5 rotations to remove, so it's nice to see that reduced a little bit on this particular model. Underneath we have a number 6 stainless steel Bach nib. It's stamped with the Laban name and is available in extra fine, fine, medium, and broad. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is concave and metal and also has the rainbow treatment. This transitions into the plastic threads and the remainder of the barrel. I will say that this section for me is a bit on the slick side. However, it's concave enough that I don't find my grip slipping to the end, or I don't find myself having to constantly grip while I'm writing. I mentioned earlier how the patterning was a bit sharp on the side. I don't find it to be the most comfortable when it's rubbing up against the inside of my hand. The sharpness for me comes into play there a little bit. The cap does post if you apply enough force, and then it will post securely. It is fairly light, so I don't feel it backweights the pen or throws off the balance. So if you like to use your pens posted, then this will work for you, but it's long enough to use unposted if you choose to do that as well. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. With the metal parts in the section, as well as some internal exposed metal in the back interior of the barrel, eyedropping this pen would not be recommended. You can get a really good look at the ink through the transparent barrel. The converter is branded with the company name, which I don't particularly care for in this instance, since the exterior overlay of the pen kind of breaks up the name. Now, my feeling is that this is just the converter Laban uses on all of their fountain pens. While having the branding on there most likely isn't an issue on the majority of their other pens, for this one, I don't think the look is that great. The Laban Skeleton Rainbow is available from a number of retailers and sells for right around $225. The other versions of the 300 retail for about $20 less. I care for the looks for this pen. I don't feel the rainbow treatment is over the top, and I feel it's a decent valuation at that price. So it's something that I would encourage you to check out at the retailer of your choosing. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample where I'll show you a few new ink offerings for Laban as well. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Laban 300 Skeleton Rainbow. I just wanted to give you another close look at that rainbow treatment. And it's one of those things that's going to vary on every single pen. You can see that it's more kind of goldish and yellowish on this side, and then kind of more purplish on this side. It's just a nice treatment. And then in regard to, I showed it earlier, but this is in regard to the 300 in the gunmetal. And then a couple of other Laban pens. Here it is with a recently reviewed Gloria. And then this is the Antique. And then in regard to a few other rainbow pens, here it is with a Conklin Durograph. And then here it is with a TWSBI VAX 700 Iris. And then here it is with a Gravitas Skittles. And then in regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Durograph and the TWSBI VAX 700. And then here it is with the Gravitas Skittles. So here we go with the writing sample for the Laban 300 Skeleton Rainbow. This is a broad stainless steel nib, and the ink I'm using is a brand new ink from Laban, which is Laban Zeus. They have come out with a number of inks that are in their Greek god line. This is what Zeus looks like. In comparison to a few of the other inks in the line, there is Hera, which is a green, kind of a darker green. There's Ares, which is red. There is Poseidon green. And then there is an Artemis navy blue. And finally, there is an Apollo orange. The inks come in boxes like this. Here's a nice picture of Zeus. And then inside, this is what the ink bottles look like. They're 50 milliliter, have a nice depth to them, so you can get just about any nib in there. So there's something worth checking out. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I really like this Zeus ink. It's a nice saturated purple. And this broad Bach nib is fairly smooth with just a hint of feedback. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of there, but it does lay down a nice, thick, broad line. In regard to ink flow, it's rather generous. And reverse writing, while it is a little scratchy, it does lay down a very nice fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, there's no issue whatsoever. So there we have the Laban 300 Skeleton Rainbow. I think that this is a really good alternative to some of the other more expensive skeleton models that are out there on the market. I think it looks really sharp. And then I think the rainbow treatment looks nice on it as well. So it's something well worth checking out. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.